Hey team, Wade Wyatt here, and this is the Week 9 update on how you can create more gross profit or net income in your business. And this week I feel like I'm on Saturday Night Live in the 1990s. If you remember Deep Thoughts by Jack Handey. This week as I was prepping for my update, what should I be recommending you do for your gross profit net income? I looked over my list of ideas and I was just thinking through what is the real challenge? I mean, what's stopping us from doing these things that we talked about. My mind went to fear. We've talked about that in weeks past. I talked about the fear of raising your prices. There's a lot of fear that exists in business that stops us from increasing our gross profit when typically we just do it. The other thing that I thought about was the fear of risk. Now, we talk a lot about risk, both in the books that we read and in conversations we have about business and entrepreneurship. Risk is not a new topic. It's nothing I discovered, or the idea that you need to take more risk or take more calculated risk. I just want to remind you of the fact, because I think sometimes, just like when we're working on a sport or we're encouraging our kids to get into, say, play basketball, we go back to, okay, start with a bounce pass, or with Vince Lombardi used to say, gentlemen, this is a football at the beginning of every football season. I think we've got to remind ourselves that we don't take enough risk. And I'd also like to say that that's one of the things that differentiates, not the only thing, but one of the things that differentiates what's the classic 1% of the world from the other 99% of the world is that, are we comfortable? Are we willing to take more risk? Are we willing to risk what we have now for something later? And as entrepreneurs, you had to have some level of risk in order to become an entrepreneur. If you're the CEO or leader of your business, you had to take some risk to get to where you're at now. You had to pursue an advanced degree or take a promotion or go out and satisfy some need. I just want to encourage you that if you want to continue to scale up, you want to continue to expand your business, that it may mean that you have to revisit the idea of risk, and you may have to drive further into risk than what you're comfortable with today. Because gross profit and net income doesn't come without additional risk. If you want to grow that area, all the tips that I'm giving you, very few of them are just, oh, do this and you'll make more money. A lot of them are, you got to take a little bit of risk. So this week's recommendation and this week's email is centered around that idea. And then it's also centered around the idea that as you're training up employees, as you're trying to encourage people to grow inside of your own business, they're part of what we would call the 99%, which I think I am as well. I haven't calculated my net worth recently, but I think I'm part of the 99% because I don't take a lot of risk anymore, and I'm not that outgoing, brazen young man I was at one point when I first started my first business. So I'm sure I fall into that 99% category as well. And most of the world has an issue with taking risks. So I just want to encourage you as I wrap this up. I've said risk about 100 times, but that's what this update's all about. I really do believe that smart risk, calculated risk, is going to help you increase your gross profit. And this is the final tip. A lot of times, because of the fear of risk, because of the avoidance of risk, we miss opportunity to grow a gross profit. And so what I want you to do is, it doesn't mean you should be risky or take on risk that isn't smart. But I want you to think more about that. And just like in weeks past, we talked about experimentation, the fact that you need to experiment, you also need to be thinking about what are the risks that you're avoiding or not taking, and then really consider them. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next week.